And welcome back to RJB. That's me, RJB Starcraft Casts, here again with another game between Hamburgersasu, also known as Ducker Random, and he's playing against none other than 458, who is using the name Barcode 45. Doesn't get much more self-explanatory that it is, in fact, 45 himself. And we're going to standard colors. Hamburgersasu on the green Zerg. 458 on the... Alright, I'm not going to go stick to the... I'm going to change the colors, because that's not really working out that well with the gas here on the side of the minimap. I'll show you. You can see it on the side. The CN and the gas, same color. I don't want that. I'm just going to switch it to blue and red. So Hamburgersasu is now the red Zerg up against the blue Protoss. This game was played on December 12th. And 458 started playing significantly less Starcraft somewhere around late November. So he might not be in tip-top shape when he played this game. But nonetheless, it's Hamburgersasu against 458. And that alone promises that this will be a super exciting set of matches, because we're not just watching a single game. We're going through about 3 games, maybe 4. I forgot the amount. We'll just see where the ship goes. Yeah, basic start from both players. 9 hatchery, followed by a pool, and then of course not a drone. And there is the Overlord on the way, scouting the top side first, which is the opposite direction. But he will sooner or later find 458's location. Nonetheless, regardless of where he's sending an Overlord, he will find it with a Zergling most likely. 458 now deciding to scout himself after he went for the Forge and the Gateway. What he's going to add on? He's going to add on cannons first. Just being sure to protect himself. He's going for the tech opening because he's adding on 2 gas very early on into the game. He's not going for any gateway units as of yet, or in the foreseeable future for that matter, which does give Hamburgersasu some very relaxed building time. And I'm not sure if that is the route you want to go against Hamburgersasu, because if you give him room to breathe, even if it's only for 5 to 10 minutes in the early game, he's going to find himself a path to success. But this is 458 we're talking about, and 458 always has a plan. Starts off with the 6 probes on the gas quite early, only 9 probes mining minerals. But this is all, of course, so he can start ramping up on his economy. Add on 2 gateways. So maybe I was wrong. Maybe he is going for a heavy gateway unit commitment. But the most likely scenario is he will go for a robotics facility after the cybernetics core, because he wants to fly those units into Hamburgersasu space over the wall and circumvent the frontal choke here. And because Hamburgersasu has not seen any zealots out on the map, has also just scouted 458's location, he more or less just didn't make any extra sunkens in addition to the one he already had, so he can save up on drones and start boosting his economy a little bit more by having a couple more drones on his gas, or on his minerals, and on his gas, it appears. Although I do think that this gas is out very early, but much needed for later stages in the game. So just stocking up on drones. And it's the minerals for hatchery. Maybe he's going to add on a couple more sunkens just to make sure that he can defend himself with the information he just got inside of 458's space. Because he sees those zealots are now, well, walking towards the middle, but they're not leaving. They're just going to build up a choke there. Hamburgersasu's not going to lose that Zergling. He's out at the front there. He knows that there's a choke coming up now for 458. Still off a Dune. And a Stargate. Going for Corsairs. He's going to try and harass a little bit and keep Hamburgersasu somewhat busy. But Hamburgersasu is quite good at protecting his overlords, for as much as I know. He's going for a very fast Hydralisk Den and a very fast lair here. There is no robotic facility out for 458. He's going for Zealot legs really early on into the game. This is quite an interesting one, because I was really expecting him to stick to a more robotics facility heavy build. But that zealot speed is throwing me off just a little bit, because it might indicate that he's trying to do something that I personally have not seen a lot before. I go for the frontal push with the double reaver drop on the front here. So that is what he's going to do. He went for the double robotic facility. Once one of them finishes, he's going to add on a support bay. But he's already adding on the Temple's Archive. Maybe I'm wrong. I feel I'm wrong. I feel I misread the build order that I was going for. So double robotics facility. No support bay out yet. I think this one's going to make the support bay right there. There's the support bay. So he is just going for the regular standard drop deck. For a second I thought he might try to just attack frontally with those zealots, because honestly that could work. He has quite a nice amount, and the amount will keep ramping up the more zealots he makes with those gateways. So he could in theory attack this front here, but he doesn't have that information. He is under the assumption that Hamburgersasu is probably adding on more Sunkens. Hamburgersasu didn't. Instead he went for quite a large drone count quite early into the game. He's already on 31 drones, which is quite early, but that's all facilitated by the fact that he basically went for a very cheap choke that cannot really defend him. But it's working out in his favor, because he already has that Spire on the way, 4 Scorches against those shuttles. He has those Hydralisks on the low ground here to defend against units being dropped inside of his base. And to protect his workers, which is the main vocal point. And now Hamburgersasu, feeling that it's about time that 458 should be attacking, or could be attacking, starts adding onto his choke, because he's got his economy somewhat running and rolling, and he's feeling safe enough to do it. His Corsair here on the top side is somewhat telegraphing the direction that 458 might be taking with his shuttle, so he's also making sure to use one on the bottom side just to scare those overlords away. So the overlords do not give Hamburgersasu any extended vision over the hills, as we can see here. He's got a limited amount of vision. Just the Corsair. Corsair dies to the Scorches. He might be trying to do the same with the top one there. That is a great setup from Hamburgersasu, mostly because he has not been pressured yet. Alright, he's loading up those shuttles. 1 Templar, 4 Zealots, so he's just been building, really. As you can see, he's just been building and getting upgrades. Shield upgrade, weapon upgrade, speed upgrade, storm upgrade is already finished, so he's getting Templar energy upgrade. Observer already finished as well, but it's just making shuttles and Templars. A lot of Templars, I will admit. So he's trying to find himself a way in. But Hamburgersasu, with the assistance of those Scorches, has really managed to secure his side vision quite early into the game, which is going to make it a little bit hard for 458 to fly his drops, and he's trying from 2 directions at the same time. This one is not getting spotted until it is very close to the main, so this might actually work. There he goes, he responds very quickly, he managed to pull his drones off, but his drones, actually almost none of them die, but the second drop is already coming in, and this time he does manage to snipe around half of them. Killed about 20 of those drones there eventually, so beautiful setup from 458, which is one of the things he is specifically known for. Great setups, and it's also a little bit of an oversight from Hamburgersasu for not getting vision on this little portion here, which completely caught him off guard. And it forced him to focus on 2 different drops at the same time, which, as we saw, evidently failed. But 458, having invested so heavily into those drops, and having currently no unit count sufficient enough to attack through the front, is going to give Hamburgersasu some time to recover his drone count. And Hamburgersasu already having those 6 hatcheries here on top, 1 on the downside there and 1 at the front, neglecting of course his main hatchery, his lair, is capable of droning back up quite quickly. But to the benefit of 458, being forced to drone up means that he hasn't really been able to add on much to his base or much to his unit count. But he has been capable of maintaining that side vision to keep himself in the game and the know-how of what is about to be flying in. And 458 honestly is taking a little bit too much time here. Might be a sign of him being a little bit out of shape, but he still got the basis down of what his usual game plan is, aka drop hard and then go in through the front, which he is aiming to be doing here now. It could take him about a minute or so in between that drop and between this frontal attack, maybe a little bit more. But of course he's going to pair that up with an actual drop, Because one of these, they've not been loaded up actually. Templars now going to be loaded up. Reaver going to be loaded up as well. Frontal attack there is waiting. Scorch is actually out on the hunt because Hamburgersasu knows that a drop is going to be coming sooner or later, and he's got an overlord there that's giving him vision, so now he's just going to snipe those shuttles and prevent the drop that 458 was planning so cautiously, but 3 of the shuttles survive. No Reavers, well, 1 of the 2 of the Reavers that were loaded up have died, but all the Templars have stayed alive. Now he's going for the front attack here in the front with 2 Reavers assisting, and honestly, this is quite a lot of Sunkens. And the Reavers are firing on the hatchery, so we should, in the meantime, pull back. Although now the shuttle goes down. 4 Sunkens have died there in the front, but nothing too serious. And honestly, he didn't do all that much with how much that costed him. But now the Scorches are ready there to intercept the shuttles, and great Scorch work from Hamburgersasu there. He's got a lot of Scorches. Responding very quickly and nipping those shuttle drops in the bud before they can even get close to their intended target. And now that Hamburgersasu has managed to rebuild up to 57 workers, it's feeling comfortable to even start moving out and potentially sacrifice a couple of units just to shut down those Reavers. He gets the Reavers. Lurkers haven't even been burrowed yet. So now he starts ramping up, starts feeling that income, filling up his bank. And it's looking like he's going for a drop here. Honestly, it is. Or he's just going to spread those out. There is the drop. He did get the upgrades earlier, but I didn't mention it because I was distracted by something else. Overlords have been loaded up, but he's leaving his front side very, very exposed here. There's only 6 Sunkens left. And these units can honestly kill those 6 Sunkens. So he's going to have to keep some of those units back in his base, because he's spreading himself very thin. Well, it looks like those units are sufficient to keep his frontal choke there alive. But will this drop work? Because there's already a Templar here for 458, which is one of the things you should always be doing. Keep at least 2 Templars, maybe 3 at your Nexus, and of course build a lot of cannons around it as well. And there's the game timer. I just spoiled the game length, but that doesn't really matter. Drop coming in right here, hitting about 10, hitting about another 15. So he managed to have the amount of workers that Hamburgersasu has, so that's a great hit. But Hamburgersasu does have 1900 minerals left in the bank, and he's already throwing out a counter drop here. But I think these 2 Templars here, and even more Templars spawning now, are going to be making this a very short-lived party for Hamburgersasu. There are the Lurkers. Will he get the Lurkers? The Lurkers are managing the burrow, and he gets the shot off on the probes. Probes going down. Probes. Oh, so many probes have died there for 458. They managed to pull some of them to safety, but not enough. And the Storms didn't really achieve all that much either. So both players now actually on the exact same worker counts. Hamburgersasu manages to land a pretty good hit on 458 there. That's a pretty good counterpunch. And that really does take some of the pressure off of Hamburgersasu, because now Hamburgersasu on 64 drones, because he can re-drone quicker than 458 can, thanks to the assistance of having those hatcheries there on the sides. But 458 already had a huge mass piled up and ready to go. So Observer there in the front, of course, ready to help with those Lurkers. There is the attack. But does he have Dragoon range? Doesn't look like he has Dragoon range. The range of those Dragoons is really, really short. I think he doesn't have Dragoon range. That is quite big, because if he had Dragoon range, this could have been way more effective. But the frontal attack is not really what he was aiming for. He was aiming for this drop to land. Hamburgersasu managing that really well, managing to take down most of the shuttles, and there is actually no Reaver or Templar left in those shuttles, so he managed to take down all the shuttles that were relevant and protects his workers once again. It ramps up in the second phase of the game. Lurkers now morphing in the front, ready to be burrowed up. A huge group of Lurkers is absolutely a huge pain to deal with. Of course, he's got an Overlord there on the top side, almost dead. But he can start sniping those Observers with Scorches, thanks to this Overlord there up on the hill. 458 now on 62 probes, managing to recover quite a bit. But thanks to the hits they landed just prior on Hamburgersasu, Hamburgersasu has not been able to go for the counterattack. yet or to capitalize on that probe snipe. So instead, because he was unable to capitalize, he's just making sure to use the time that he has now, and he has provided himself with right now, to start ramping up his defensive ability. Of course, no units on the side, because that is a lot of investment. It takes a lot of time. He just wants to be quick and fast, ramp up quick, be able to counterpunch hard and fast. It's mostly just Hydralisks and Lurkers that he's planting up, loading up even. And Scourges, of course, as well. These Overlords returning to base. These Dragoons looking for Overlords to kill on the sides of Hamburgersasu's base. And Scourge is already there. Is he going to try to bait those Scourges out? Or is he just going to... Oh, he unloads right before the Scourge can hit. That's a beautiful, beautiful unload there from 458. Unloads before any of the Scourges can hit. All of the units have been unloaded. Now he's going to load up those Dragoons as well and fly them in over the wall to assist those Dragoons on the low ground. A lot of Dragoon Reavers have already gone down. But the Storm's there, making sure that those Hydralisks are going down. And now the Dragoons being the bait for those Hydralisks to fire on. The older Hydralisks have gone, all the Dragoons have gone down, and the Reavers are going down as well, and it looks like this wasn't all that effective. He did take down about 30. Oh wait, there is a real drop now flying in, but the real drop gets sniped. Templar unloads the lookout, but it gets inside of the range of the Lurkers. And no Storm comes down on those drones, and Hamburgersasu extends his life once again, but he's already throwing out a counter drop once again on 458. 458 pulling all of his probes away to the gas. Storm comes down, but those Lurkers are burrowing. He now gets a Storm off on the Lurkers, but the Lurkers got a huge hit off. Huge hit off. About 22 probes there went down for 458, but he managed to keep 48 of them alive. Most of them are on the gas, though. His minerals are quite low, 230. So has been spending really, really well, but that hit got him pretty good. And considering Hamburgersasu has not been hit yet for a while, even though he's still quite small, only on, well, he's adding on more hatcheries now, but he's still only on 10 additional hatcheries if we exclude his main, soon to be 11, but he's holding himself up quite nicely. It is more so about the effectiveness of what he's doing instead of the size of what he's doing. Well, his choke here is quite sizely. But those Dragoons coming in quite hard. And they're somewhat decently upgraded. The Hamburgersasu's upgrades are in theory way nicer. 2-2 against 0-1-2. Those hits on his minerals have been slowing his upgrades down. In addition to that, he only has 2 forges, so he can only get 2 upgrades at the same time. The frontal attack here amounting to pretty much nothing. The Sunken Seer on the side, really difficult to focus down. Hamburgersasu now going for the attack, the frontal attack, but there's 2 Reavers there in the front, 2 Reavers there in the front, at least taking down a couple of Hydralisks along with them. Even more than I thought. That's at least 13 of those went down. He tried to go in with another drop, but the drop got intercepted by some Dragoons. He's waiting for this frontal attack to happen first before he's going to go in with those Overlords on the side. Now he's regrouping those Overlords with more Overlords. And instead of going for the main, he's going to be moving in and drop right behind the mass of Templars and Reavers that 458 has situated here in the front of his base. A lot of Storms are coming down here, but not enough Storms. This is definitely not enough Storms. All Storms have been used and expanded. He used a couple of double Storms on there as well. And now he's being attacked in his choke from both sides, from outside of his own base, inside of his own base, and from the outside. And more units already streaming out of Hamburgersasu's base at quite a slow pace because he only has 11 additional hatcheries, but that is enough in this situation here because he is pushing through quite well. And Hamburgersasu playing this really, really well. Honestly, I am impressed. He managed to make 458 look somewhat disorganized. Or slow, to be honest. So only 90 minutes have passed and a lot has already happened. And yeah, the frontal part of 458's base here has been broken. There's pretty much nothing he can do because those robotic facilities were his last vestiges of hope because he needs those observers, but they are going to die. And there's a lot of Overlords and Hydralisks here, and Scourges ready to take down observers in the case observers do spawn. So great use of those Scourges there to make sure that no observers are coming out to help against those Lurkers there on the low ground. and he doesn't have that many gateways to keep himself afloat. And I think that's a GG, because Hamburgersasu knows it is a GG because he's spamming out, get out, get out, get out. And that's game number 1. Quite well played by Hamburgersasu. Also have to admit that 458 didn't play it all that well, but it looked like he didn't play all that well, only because Hamburgersasu had the perfect answer ready every single time. 458 tried, but Hamburgersasu just handled it like a boss, really. He made it look really easy. And sometimes when things are made to be look really easy, the opponent can look like he had quite a bad performance. But that was honestly just perfectly played by Hamburgersasu, even though he did get storm dropped for a portion of his drones a couple of times. But every single time he had the right answer ready to throw back at 458 and extend his life, buy himself time, and get big enough for the attack and kill 458. Quite an interesting game. And it's time for game number 2. So I'm going to pause the recording for a very short period of time and see you once again in a couple of seconds. So let's hope that game number 2 displays a little bit of a more orthodox form of 458, because in the last game he couldn't really do the things that he intended to do. He gave Hamburgersasu a lot of time, and Hamburgersasu just went for the exact right options, going for that very early Spire, knowing that shuttles were incoming. And instead of just relying on the high list, he made really good use of those scorches to ensure himself side vision, to give himself a reaction time and a buffer zone against those drops from 458. And then just kept sniping those shuttles. Most of the time, it worked really well. Worked really, really well. So Hamburgersasu, this game, he's on the yellow Terran, right beneath 458 on the gray Protoss. 458, of course, always on the Protoss against the other top players. And unlike in the foreign or the western fastest map scene, Protoss, while still very, very strong, is not as strong because the micro and the skill level of these players is so high that Terran and Zerg honestly do have a better chance against the Protoss. As we saw in the last game, Hamburgersasu just did amazing stuff, really, to keep 458 at bay. Now this game is going for the +1 command center really early on in the game. 458, of course, doing the standard Protoss start. Same start as the last game, but this time it's the PVT instead of a PVZ. So starts off with the Forge, pylon in the choke. So once you wall that off, sends that probe back and makes the gateway. As many of you have probably already seen happen in most of my Protoss versus Terran videos, it's as standard as it gets. Although this, from 458 here, is not as standard as it gets. Because most of the time they don't do this. Most of the time they go for 3 barracks or 2 barracks into the late command center, somewhere around the 3 or 4 minute mark. Or even a double added command center, so 1 here, 1 there. Hamburgersasu goes for the command center, 3 barracks, and with a 2 minute 15 scout, quite late, but it will get him the information that he needs. And in this scenario specifically, it works out really well because he's not under the threat of being attacked by 458. Now, if 458 had done a 2 gateway Nexus build, now that would be a different story, because in that case, 458 would have 2 zealots running into Hamburgersasu's base right about now, and there wouldn't be that many units for Hamburgersasu to defend with. But it works out. 458 scouts his opponent. He sees the very early command center, so he knows that Hamburgersasu has a bigger economy coming into the mid-game, or well, the early mid-game. About the 4 to 5 minute mark, his economy will be a bit bigger, but he will be behind on unit count because of those delayed barracks, but he will have a bigger base around the 8 to 9 minute mark, which is what he's aiming for. Which is also, quite honestly, 458's weak point, because 458 spends most of his minerals and is quite a slow base builder. So it might work out if 458 cannot land any devastating blows on his opponent. But 458 is going for a slightly different build, actually the same build as last game. But not really see this build that often in Protoss versus Terran. Goes for the Citadel of Adun first. And no robotics. There's no robotics out yet. Is it his robotics? Not a robotics. Where is that robotics? He's not going for the robotics at all. They're just chatting away a bit. I'm quite surprised that we're not seeing robotics, because I think that 458's strongest skills lie in his shuttle-centered playstyle. He's going for Citadel of Adun first, followed by a robotic facility just around the time a Citadel of Adun finishes, so that it overlaps with the spawning time of the Templars Archive. And so that he will have Dark Templars, most likely Dark Templars, out at about the same time as his shuttle finishes. So Dark Templars is going to be the option he's going for. But Hamburgersasu is not intending on giving 458 all that time that he needs. But 458 has 5 cannons here in the front, although one is still on the way. 4 Zealots there. 4 Zealots won't have any help in keeping Hamburgersasu away. Hamburgersasu's mass quite small, but he's on a 3 barrack pump. He's got a factory finished up, and he scanned the front. So we can see he scanned... Oh, he didn't scan the front, he scanned the main. He didn't scan the front, he didn't need to scan the front because he just scouted it with his Marines. But he's got the information that this is too big to go into with Marines. 5 cannons, 4 Zealots. That is sufficient to keep those Marines and medics away, or at least prevent them from breaking through. Which would have been a real problem for 458 if those Marines had broken through. But this does mean that Hamburgersasu has a lot of units to defend himself with. And the Dark Templars, honestly, I don't see them working. Shuttle almost finished up. 3 Dark Templars have finished. He's now adding on more gateways. He's added on a second robotics. There's a support bay, but shuttle speed now on the way. A little bit late. I really am personally not a fan of any Dark Templar build like this. Sometimes it works. Most of the time it doesn't. He sees the turret there. He can use the protection from the hill to fly his way around. One unloads there, but it gets scanned and it dies immediately before it even gets a single kill. And he pulls back. He knows that he has already failed, or he's going to try to fly in over the other side of the map. There's honestly not much he can do with those Dark Templars, even though there's a small hole here. But the distance it takes to fly all the way around to here just takes way too damn long. If he starts a turret now, that turret will be finished before this shuttle can fly in. So he's just going to go for the double Reaver, followed by 2 shuttles. But those 2 shuttles will be out at least 7 minutes. Well, that's going to be a little bit slow. He is spending his minerals really well. He's not lagging behind in spending on macro. Just I don't really like his choice in strategy. No Marines here on the bottom side of those Dark Templars actually managing to get something in. Stopping. Oh, there come Marines. There come to scan. And both Dark Templars are going to go down. Or is this one going to escape? It looks like it's going to escape, but it's going to run into safety. And it's going to go back and make sure to clear out this turret here, that turret there. But Hamburgersasu knows. Hamburgersasu is fishing for the Dark Templar, but the Dark Templar here manages to snipe that SCV. SCV goes down, but it is inside of the vision of that turret, so he moves up towards the minerals. Scan has to come out. No scan. The Dark Templar is getting clipped into the Marines, and there it goes. Turret finishes. Dark Templar goes down. And all he achieved was 2 SCVs and a single turret. With quite a big investment. Because that investment slowed down his actual hard-hitting drops until after the 8-minute mark. He did compensate though by adding on 2 additional robotic facilities, so 4 robotic facilities in total, able to make shuttles, reavers, and whatever he needs for those drops, for the drop spam. But honestly, Hamburgersasu is already quite big. Has a lot of Marines here, there, all around his main, so he is capable of protecting himself. Goes turret on the sides there as well. Even lifting up engineering base now as well to get vision on the hills to extend the attack range of those turrets. As you can see, he needs that vision over the hill here. 458 loads up his drop. He's going to set it to the side of the map to make it as hard as possible for 458 to snipe down those shuttles. There it comes, flies in. Front choke there being taken out by tanks at the same time, and he unloads them right over the hill. He's gonna try to kill units on the lower ground and take down those turrets to make it easier to send in his follow-up drop, because he already has a follow-up drop prepared. Now the Zealots are running in. Templars haven't stormed yet. Can he get a storm off? He gets storm up on a total of Marines, but the Marines got dodged pretty well. This Templar is coming in range of the minerals, and the minerals didn't get dodged, and he actually gets about 30 of those SCVs. Hamburgersasu, what were you thinking? Why were you not dodging that drop? You just made this situation a very painful one for yourself. And considering there are so many Templars, pushing in now could be fatal for yourself. 458, 61 probes, got their Templars and Zealots on the way. He knows he needs those units because he knows that Hamburgersasu is going for the frontal attack now. These tanks here on the other side really helping him solidify that push by taking out a choke, but another drop's already flying in. Hamburgersasu not dodging, storm comes down. No, he has energy, but the Marine SCVs are outside of the range, and he gets a storm off on the SCVs and kills the remaining SCVs that Hamburgersasu had on his minerals. Now a fight here happening in the front, but Dark Templar is there. Does he have it? Scan comes out, but he already killed a couple of those units on the lookout. Now he's got 7 Templars, and he storms every single Marine. Hamburgersasu had in 458 base to death. Almost all of them. A couple of them are still alive. Templars there in the back, almost has energy. This one has energy, so he can storm on those Marines. Hamburgersasu is really trying to keep this push going. Even took most of his SCVs off of his gas, so he has a little bit of income at least. But being incapable of pumping anything out on those 20 workers is really going to be the difference maker here. Because 458, having 61 probes, even as a couple of idle probes, is just spamming out units. And that Reaver there in the front is really chunking down the bunker. It was kind of the center point of Hamburgersasu's push. And he's sieging up now. Zealots running in. Templars coming in as well. Marines stimming back because he doesn't want to get stormed. But the storm is going to come down on the Marines anyway. Marines dodge the storm really well. 458 now pulling his Templars back once again. Tanks sieging up. More units are on the way for Hamburgersasu, but not that many. Ooh, it's kind of like picking between do I defend or do I attack? And he's honestly just going for the all-out attack because he knows that if he doesn't put some pressure on 458, he's going to die. Reaver's there unloading. Reaver gets a shot off on the tanks and the Marines, and all of them go down at the same time. Still 2 tanks alive. Gets another shot off on the tank. The tank close to dying. 3 HP left. He doesn't manage to pick it up. He managed to unload 2 new Reavers on the low ground. Gets a couple of shots off on those tanks and the Marines, but both the Reavers go down before getting picked up. Now more Zealots streaming out from the base, but they're pulling back because they need to group up. He needs a bigger one, and there he loads up a Templar, loads up a Zealot, and there's an open path here on the side of Hamburgersasu's base because Hamburgersasu hasn't been capable of affording plugging up this hole here because it's a gaping wide hole here that 458 can just fly in through and storm. He's gonna wait for the Templar to get energy. He's gonna wait a little bit to get a little bit of a mass back. And I'll admit, even though Hamburgersasu has pretty much no income, has handled that push really well. But the storm drop coming here on the low ground, and he storms all the remaining SCVs, and 458 finishes the game, wins game number 2. He wins the PVT against Hamburgersasu, even though he's out of shape. He displayed a really nice PVT. That is, of course, if we ignore the entire Dark Templar escapade, because I just thought that was very ineffective. And it gave Hamburgersasu a lot of time. But honestly, that drop here was absolutely monumental. He handled that really well. The combination of Templars with Reavers and Zealots, that worked amazingly well. That really set himself up for success. Although part of it was Hamburgersasu just not putting much effort into sending his SCVs to safety when he should have sent them to safety. But let's not linger too long on this game specifically and move on to the next one. Because I think I've said everything I want to say about this game specifically. Both players played really well. Great micro, great target selection, great all around. But Hamburgersasu with one big mistake that cost him the game. If he hadn't lost those Templars, those SCVs there, he would have won on this push. And that push was honestly really good, even without the income that he lost. Anyway, pausing the game. And loading into game number 3. And I've just learned that this is the best of 3. So that means that this is going to be the final game between Hamburgersasu and 458. And both players are this time playing on the Protoss. 458 on the pale green Protoss? Pale green Protoss, I assume. And Hamburgersasu on the yellow Protoss. And these colors are kind of shitty. So let's do it like this. Red versus blue. Yeah. So now that both players are on equal footing, Protoss versus Protoss, called the manliest matchup on fastest map, Protoss versus Protoss, equal races, equal chances, so to speak. Yeah, Hamburgersasu won the very well played Zerg versus Protoss in the very first round of this series. The second round went to 458, winning the Protoss versus Terran with, honestly, a little bit of a lackluster drop defense from Hamburgersasu, but a really great push that followed that up. That would have worked if not for the drop. But what ifs do not exist. Hamburgersasu starts off with the gas and the gateway. And this can only mean a single thing. Dragoons. 458, however, is starting with a +1 Nexus. This is quite reminiscent of a game that I sent to Falcon Paladin between Question and I Want to Be the God, aka Gold SCV, where pretty much the exact same thing happens. Question in the game went for the +1 Nexus, followed by a Forge and a Gateway, whereas I Want to Be the God, aka Gold SCV, went for this exact same Dragoon build at 458 that Hamburgersasu is doing now. But Hamburgersasu is scouting the wrong way. He's gonna have to use a second probe if he wants to find 458 in time. You will of course find him soon, but it might not be in time. He's not planning on setting a second probe. He wants all the minerals. And of course the timing of his cybernetic core and his gateways is all on point to get 3 Dragoons out as fast as he can. So around the time this cybernetic core finishes, he has about 300 gas and about 450 minerals. Or so. Well, 400, closer to 400. There it is. It finishes up at 400 minerals. Now we can start the Dragoon range. You can make 2 Dragoons as well. Or 3 Dragoons. My bad. You can make 3 Dragoons at the same time. So of course 150 and 150 and 150 gas for this. And 375 minerals. So it all works out perfectly timed. 458 has found him. Hamburgersasu has not found 458 yet, but Hamburgersasu knows that 458 has to be on the top side of the map. Because this probe came from, well, it came around the time he already scouted this. It came around the time frame where it would mean that he would be on these 2 bases. But considering he came from, well, considering he wasn't there, he has to be on the top side. My line of thought got a little bit jumbled up there. Anyway, Zealot there in the middle, distracting those Dragoons. Zealot goes down, but Dragoons get delayed, which means that 458 has time to get these cannons up here on the bottom side, which will protect his tech. That's a smart move, because that's something I saw Question neglect to do, even though Question knew the Dragoons were coming. And now those Dragoons are being forced away by those Zealots. 458 buying himself time, but now he's going to ignore those Dragoons and try to sneak into the base, but it's mostly just there to keep Hamburgersasu busy and buy himself more time, because those cannons are now finishing up, which means this gateway here is protected. Another cannon means his Citadel of Adun is protected, and it means his Templar's Archive is protected as well. He's going for the Dark Templars here. 2 more Dragoons there on the side, but they got spotted out by those Dragoons. Zealots, I mean, got spotted out by the Dragoons, but the Dragoons are now just going to ignore them because more Dragoons here have spawned. He's got more pylons on the way. There is a robotic facility for, what do you call them again? Observers. Because he knows, he has to know, that 458 is going for Dark Templars to defend himself. Dragoons there, not microing all that well because he's trying to micro on 2 separate locations at the same time because he has to protect his workers here. But he eventually does manage to take down both of those Zealots, but he did lose a single. He did lose a single Dragoon there, I assume. And there, both the Zealots go down before they can take down a single probe. And 458 having the lead in probe count. Although it's a very small lead here. Very, very small lead. Is now losing his gateway. And he didn't cancel the Dark Templar there. So 1 Dark Templar less. As you have the Observer. The Observatory is a little bit late and delayed for Hamburgersasu. But he did take down 2 gateways. So that's 450 gold. 300 gold that he is denied. He lost a Dragoon there, has taken out a Kanzi in the front, but he's really feeling the pressure from the Dark Templar there. And he decides to pull back after taking down that last cannon, sacrificing the Zealots, and he makes his way out of there. Observatory is finished. Observers on the way. Dark Templar is on the chase. Let's get into this here. Adding on a lot of gateways because he's also going for the Zealot legs, and he knows that he is at about the point where he's gonna propel past Hamburgersasu's worker count and have a bigger economy than Hamburgersasu. So 458 is banking on going for a huge ground mass of Zealots that can get a surround off on those Dragoons. But if those Dragoons get microed well enough, and if those Dragoons can start taking out some of these gateways before the Zealot mass comes out, or can start killing Zealots as they spawn, this game is in the bag for Hamburgersasu. So it all comes down to how 458 handles himself in this situation. And actually, Zealot speed just about to finish, and he even gets a surround up on a couple of Dragoons, making it harder for Hamburgersasu to micro, but Hamburgersasu is managing the micro really well. 458 still tries to get in there, but is now forced to pull back in between these gateways and wait for the next round of Zealots to finish up. Hamburgersasu is even making a Reaver now, because he finishes the support bay. So Hamburgersasu is really ramping up here. And this game is really starting to look exactly like that game between I Wanna Be the God and Question that Falcon Paladin casted just a couple of days ago. Cell is still being forced down, and honestly this is looking really, really grim for 458 because he's got pretty much nothing that can answer this extremely well controlled Dragoon mass from Hamburgersasu. He does have Singularity Charge on the way now. He's got no Dragoons on the way though, so I don't get why he's going for Singularity Charge if he's not making Dragoons. He's sticking to the Zealots. Why is he making Singularity Charge? Why is he not making another weapon or armor upgrade? Not that it would work though, because I honestly don't think 458 can come back from this one. He can try to force it, but he's just going to lose all these gateways here, and there's nothing to defend those gateways with, because those Zealots, once they spawn, they're too few in number to fight this off. And there is the Reaver and the Shuttle. And there he goes. He tries to go in, tries to get a shot off on those probes. Will he get a shot off? The first shot looks to be a dud. Oh, he actually managed to get about 10 of them. Maybe even 12. Second shot coming in now. Kills another 7. That looks to be the game. That looks to be the game for 458. 458 is definitely dead at this point. He hasn't given up yet. The fight in his heart is still alive, but Hamburgersasu has come out victorious here with, honestly, just superior tactics really. And there he gets the last couple of probes. 458 goes down. And Hamburgersasu with a better strategy selection that just so happens to work superiorly into 458's chosen build, nets him the win. Although it also most of it comes down to just amazing control with those Dragoons, barely losing any of those Dragoons to any of those attempts to defend. And Hamburgersasu doing a really great job on a single Nexus build. That's the power of multitasking and, honestly, high APM and great skills. So yeah, that's a quick 2 and 1. Won by Hamburgersasu against 458. And honestly, the series has some exciting parts, but I will also admit that I expected it to be a little bit more exciting. So next time I'm going to grab a set of games between these two from a little bit further back before 458 really stopped playing every single day, because before this he was playing every single day, and then he started playing maybe once or twice a week. And to play at this level in Starcraft, you kind of lose your skill and your accuracy and your speed quite quickly. And most of all, you lose that feeling in your hand, where your hand starts cramping up. If you haven't really played all that much in a specific period of time, your hand starts cramping up. Doesn't feel too nice, your hand starts hurting. So yeah, I'm hoping 458 gets a little bit of a better series next time. Or maybe Hamburgersasu was just that good. Maybe Hamburgersasu was just that good. Maybe he just played so phenomenally well that 458 couldn't do all that much into it. Because Hamburgersasu is, after all, one of the top 3 or top 5 1v1 fastest map players in Korea. And that is a status that pretty much speaks for itself. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this one. And I hope you look forward to the next one as well. Have a good day.